Hi, Todd Burns here with Homebrew Happy Hour. Today I'm going to go over a Jockey Box kit from Keg Connection. We offer 18 different Jockey Box complete kits. And the reason we call them a complete kit is that a lot of kits that you see being sold are just the liquid side. This is the liquid and the gas side. The only thing that's not included with this kit is a CO2 cylinder. And the reason for that is some people want to get that locally, so we left that out so that you can make a choice on that. In these kits, there's basically 3 variations, and that's the reason there's so many choices. The first one is whether it's a 1 or 2 faucet. This is obviously a 2 faucet. The second is what you're going to dispense from. This is a commercial keg, a keg that you would buy in any liquor store, and it's called a Sankey D. We also offer a ball lock and a pin lock homebrew version of this. The third variable is how large of coils you want. These are 70-foot coils, but we offer 50, 70, and 120. So really it covers everything that you need. So let's go through the different groups now. We talked about the coils. We also have shanks. We have bypass to go through the back. We have faucets, faucet handles, and then all the nuts and bolts and everything, the actual liquid line, and that kind of covers the liquid part of it. And then coming out of the back of the keg is all of your gas stuff that's going to connect to your kegs. And these are all the things, the regulator, hose, couplers, and the various components for that. We go ahead and cut these lines and put the swivel nuts on so you can screw it straight into here and then connect to your coupler when you're ready. We don't cut the liquid line because people sometimes like to do different lengths, and it may vary a little bit depending on the kit. So we let you choose what you want to do. What I'm probably going to do in this one is I'm going to use about 1 foot for the inside, and I'm going to use the rest of it to pass out the back to go to the kegs. So let's talk about what you're going to need to build this. I'm just using a regular cordless drill, and then we have a 15/16 drill bit, hole saw drill bit. We actually sell these at Keg Connection, so you may want to pick one of these up if you don't already have one. A 1-inch will work as well if you happen to have a 1-inch. Standard tape measure, pin, hose cutter, very important. We also sell these on Keg Connection. If you don't have one, you're going to want a hose cutter of some sort. And then this is just a screwdriver. With these, you can just use a flatbed screwdriver. I like to use this because it's just a little faster to be able to do it. But, you know, a flat blade works fine as well. So these are, and I have an adjustable wrench. I probably won't use it much, but I like to have one handy. So these are the only tools you need. It's pretty straightforward. Next, I'm going to talk about the cooler. I want to mention that the cooler is not that important. So a lot of people think, well, I need a really good cooler that has, you know, properties of insulation, like a 5-day cooler. With a Jockey Box, you're going to go through ice, not because because of your insulation, but because you're running beer through here, and it uses it to cool the beer. So and you're usually using it pretty fast. So the cooler's not very important. This particular one is an Igloo. These are like $25 at a big box store. We've used them a lot in the past. They work very well. A disclaimer here. This is a mistake. One of my employees cut this hole wrong, and that's the reason we have this here. So I'm going to show you what to do if you cut the hole wrong, and I'm also going to cut a hole right, and we'll go through that as we're building this. All right, let's get into drilling the hole. What I did here is I just measured across a couple of inches, and I measured down, I don't remember exactly what it was, 1.5 inches. It's really up to you what you want to do here. One thing you want to pay attention to, regardless of what cooler you're using, is what's on the inside. So you don't want to drill the hole right here where you're crossing the center of that. So I decided on this one to keep them on the outside because there's also an Igloo here. I mean, you could technically drill it closer together if you wanted, but I'm just going to put them out here on the outside. I think that's going to look the best. Okay, so the secret on this is to get it on here and know exactly where you're going to drill and give it a good push, and then go slow. And then you can start to speed up. And then when you start cutting that hole, it should go through pretty good. Now, what I like to do is I like to get the hole partially drilled so that the drill bit is coming out the other end, and then I turn around and I come from the other end and I drill it that way. And now I've got a pretty smooth connection on both sides. Now remember, the type of connection or the type of hole that you have doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. I like to kind of clean it out a little bit, because when you put these shanks on, all you're doing is putting this trim piece on the front, and it's going to completely cover that, right? And you can see this is tight but not overly tight. One of the advantages of that 15/16 drill bit over a 1-inch is you get a little bit cleaner, a little bit tighter hole, which is kind of nice. So that's it. That's all you have to do to install the shank right there. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that my employee drilled this hole in the wrong place. Let me show you why. That's a classic mistake in building a jockey box. So you could actually install this the way they're made without the trim piece, and it would still work. If I was doing that, I would probably make them the same so nobody would ever know that I made a mistake. But let's go ahead and drill one in the right position, which I've already marked, and I explained. I just made sure that it would cover here, and my assistant is going to think it's really funny if it still doesn't cover it. Okay, just a second. We're going to drill this just like we did the other one. So I see it coming out the other end, so I'm going to drill from the other side. Your stuff is in here. And what I do between each hole is I actually take this apart. I can't do it by my hand, but I take it apart and I push that out, or I grab a little pin or something and pull it out. I don't need to do it for that because it's reset way back in there, but that's what I did on the other one. So now we're going to drill from this side, and you can see it matching up with the other. And now I'll flip this back around, and you can see that it is going to fit perfectly with the trim piece now, and this is what we're going to pass our hoses through. Now, one of the things I want to mention too is it used to be really critical in building jockey boxes that you get the positioning of these exactly in the right place to be able to line them up with some of the couplers that they use in building jockey boxes. We have decided several years ago there's a better way to build a jockey box, and that is by using hose to connect these, so you don't have to have a bunch of specialized pieces, and it's not so critical if you've got things that won't allow you to go in an exact spot. It's not so critical, and I'm going to show you how that works as we build this. All right, let's put these coils in. Now this particular ice chest would actually fit up to 2 of those 120 coils or 2 of the 50 coils. It fits basically everything. So that's kind of nice. So one thing on these 70 coils that would be an issue in this particular ice chest though, is that your passageways out are going to be lower than the top of the coil. So if I was using a 70, I would probably buy a little taller ice chest. It doesn't need to be bigger, but taller. For a single, a lot of people will use a one of those tall water coolers as well, and those work really well. So just some ideas. But for what we're doing, and since we're out of the 50s right now, I will show you how to do this with these. So remember I mentioned that we give you 10 feet of this hose, and that, you know, approximately 1 foot's for the front and the other's for the back. Well, we don't need 1 foot in the front. So what you could put them either way. Like we could put this one here and this one here, and then, but regardless of how you do it, you're going to have to, you know, go in one place and go out in another. So it's not critically important. I'm going to go ahead and do them personally like this. And I'm just going to cut enough hose to get to this, really. So I'm not going to take a tape measure or anything. I'm just going to hold it up here. Figure I'm going to put it about there. This is going to go on the tail piece here. Oh, let's do that actually. Let's go ahead and put the tail pieces on here, and I'll show you how to do that at the same time. So the tail piece on any beer system is pretty much the same. You just put these. Oh, by the way, these are stainless steel. Everything that touches the beer in this entire kit is stainless steel, even the faucets. So you just put the washer in there, you put it like that, and you just screw it on. And that's all you have to do. Now you may want to tighten all this a little more with a wrench, but for what we're doing, I'll show you how it goes on. That's where that adjustable wrench would come in handy. Another secret to this too, if you want to tighten these shanks a little more, once you put the faucets on, you can hold on to the faucet and then take an adjustable wrench here and tighten it more, because the faucet you can hold the faucet and keep it from moving. You want to tighten them till they're good and snug, but not so much that you're pulling the ice chest together. So that's kind of the key to that. Again, I'm just going to look at this and say, this is kind of what I want to do. And I'm just going to cut that hose. I'm just going to cut a little piece here, really. And then for the other side, we'll do the same thing. Just going to kind of determine, how do I want to run this? I'm going to run it like that. So I'm going to do the same thing. Just cut a little piece. And then once I'm done putting these on, I'm just going to fold this hose over, and I'm going to cut the rest in half. And then that way I'll have the same amount coming out the back to go into the couplers, wherever the couplers may be. So we have adjustable clamps that we talked about earlier. I'm just going to put 2 adjustable clamps on here. I'm going to push this in here, push this on here. With these worm clamps, they're super easy. You just twist them like this. You've probably seen them for automotive. It's the same thing. I call them a worm clamp. They're also called adjustable clamps. So what you want to do on these is just get them good and tight. You don't want to tighten them so much that you end up breaking it, but as long as you get a good seal, you're fine. If you don't have a good seal, you'll know right away, and you can tighten it a little more. So you just want to do the same thing on both sides. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these with my faucet wrench that I found. And you basically just tighten it good so that it seals, and that's all there is to it. So let's continue with the liquid side, and then we'll come out and we'll connect the gas side. So what you do here is just like I showed you before. You put this on the top, and beer, here's your keg. Beer always comes out the top. So the top one is liquid, the one on the side is gas. Again, this is stainless steel because everything touching the beer is stainless steel. So we're just going to do what we did on the inside. We're going to push this on, and then I like to leave a little bit of a gap so that when this squishes down, you can have a little room for it to expand. So that's really all there is to the liquid line. It's done. And then we're going to take and do the same thing on the gas side. Push it in. These are a little bit bigger. They're 3/8, so you have to push a little harder. Leave a little bit of a gap in there. Screw that down. And then for each side, because this is a double, you'll screw these onto the onto this. And there's a little white washer that I put in here, but you'll get it in your package. The little cupped washer, and it makes a connection between these two. And now we have this side. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. This goes on that CO2 cylinder, obviously. This goes on the keg, and you're ready to go. You can start dispensing beer. A couple things to remember, though. One is, you've got different restrictions, and when you're buying this, it'll list the restriction values if you'll read the description. And I also have a guide that you can read, and it'll give you a lot more information. But basically, you have different restrictions, and you're shooting for a combination of speed of dispense versus the restriction, which keeps it from foaming too much. As you go to larger coils, you might have to up your PSI above what you would normally serve at in a direct draw system, which would be about 11 PSI. That's what I shoot for. To 15, 20, 25, depending on what you have. And again, I go into a lot more detail in the written part of this, so I'll let you look at that. But we've completed this Jockey box very quickly, and you can see how much easier this is, being able to use these hoses versus the specialized components. The problem with those specialized components is that you absolutely have to line up everything exactly right, and if you don't, you won't be able to, get everything to connect. And that's really bad when you're working with different ice chests, because it just doesn't always work well. So I really like this system. I think it's quick, it's easy, it's simple. That's what we're looking for. So go serve some beer at your event.